Hello there and welcome back to yet another Newsfirst exclusive. I'm Mariam and today our topic is a little bit different to the usual that you see with us. We're going to talk about architecture. When you think architecture, you think something that shapes the cities, the towns, the villages that we live in, something that influences our daily lives, and something that reflects our cultural ties. You can think of all the big skyscrapers in the cities, and you can also think of that beautiful cultural, the little element that comes to you from your houses, from your homes, and all of that is influenced by architecture. And to discuss more about architecture, today we have with us the editor-in-chief and director of ARTRA magazine, who is bringing something very special to us over this weekend. Hi Azara, and welcome on the show.
Hi Mariam, the pleasure is all mine. Thank you very much for your very kind words.
I just gave a little brief into architecture, but it would be great to hear it from you. So tell us, where does the idea of this experiential festival come to you, and what's the mission behind the whole thing?
Primarily, it's the celebration of the launch of ARTRA magazine's Ismeth Raheem edition, and he's popularly known for his architecture, and very rightly so, but he's also an art historian and very much an artist. And if I am to give you a bit of an understanding of Ismeth, he was in fact one of the artists that worked with Jeffrey Bawa in the 1960s alongside Lucky Senanayaka, Barbara Sansoni, Hina De Silva, and also Anura Ratnavibhushana, who was a part of, this catalytic group that created a renaissance of sorts in the 1960s, because there was a beautiful intersection of art and design. And in fact, this edition of the magazine stems from celebrating and critiquing those works that took place at that point, and the works of Ismeth Raheem.
So far we've seen them featured in down south out of Colombo, and this time you chose Colombo to do it. Why?
Like you very correctly said, Mariam, we've also sort of experimented with formidable formats in different spaces to also increase the consumption for art, design and architecture. And this time we are having it in Colombo specifically to also bring in a bit of the modernism in art. So when it came to the last two editions, we had Lucky Senanayaka, which was at the Jetwing Lighthouse with the balustrade staircase, which is very iconically known for. And then we had the Bentota Beach, which was also a project by Jeffrey Bawa. So you had the 1960s, and in fact Ismeth also belongs to that clan. But we are here at the Harold Penis Gallery, which was once Alborada, the home of Lionel Wendt. Now Lionel Wendt is a very formidable figure because he was the forefather of Sri Lankan modernism, and you can have the imagery, the photographs rather, that you see are part of the exhibition Purveying the Body, which is a part of the Lionel Wendt Memorial Trust collection. Now the significance here is that it is in Colombo that this collection is housed, and it is very important for me and ARTRA, Mariam, to sort of bring in the different periods, because modernism, we're looking at the 1920s, 30s and 40s, and the De Souza House, for which the Art Experiential Festival's Day 3 takes place, is built in 1990, and then you have Jeffrey Bawa. And very interestingly, Ismeth, in the interview that we did for this edition, mentioned that he met Jeffrey Bawa here at the Lionel Wendt's Arts Club, which is now the Harold Penis Gallery. So it was a beautiful interconnection of all of these personalities, and Colombo sort of brought it all together. And then I thought, you know what, I think this time we want to do it here. And we also, when it comes to culture, there is a lot of cultural aspects in Colombo, and this time I thought we should pick these spaces, because then it gets highlighted, because characterized in a way that Colombo also has something potent in its vicinity. It's not always either down south, or it's not always in the Polonnaruwa, and I feel Colombo also needs to be brought out to the limelight in that sense.
And you mentioned that one day we'll be here and a few other locations as well. Can you talk to us about. Walk us through the process of how many days this will be going on for and what we can expect from the festival.
Fantastic. I'm glad that you gave me that opening. So the first day will be taking place at 1864 limited edition, and that would be the launch of Ismeth Raheem's magazine. And there, Ismeth and I will be talking to our guests about some of the works that are featured on this magazine, and we will have it showcased along the vicinity. And in fact, at a later point, we will be having a larger exhibition in Colombo of his works, but we are going to give a bit of a prelude at the launch of the magazine and sort of expand on, his paintings, etchings, drawings, and even his furnishing. And in fact, on the second day, while the Ismeth Raheem edition will be touched on with Anura Ratna Vibhushana's talk, where he will talk about the significance of the 1960s and 70s, and his anecdotes and recollections with Jeffrey Bava. The other three segments are going to cater to subject matters that are outside modern contemporary art as well. Like, for example, we have Professor Neluka Silva, who is also an author and academic, who will be talking about the role art and design plays in influencing children literature and the role that literature plays in child development. And then we have, in fact, ARTRA's emerging artist for 2017, Amesh Vijayasekara, taking on the subject of fashion. And in fact, with the works that we see here of Lionel Wendt, where we focus on the body as a site of celebration and critique, he is looking at fashion from that perspective. And that will take place at 2 o'clock here at Harold Pearis Gallery. And at 5:45, we will be having the talk and exhibit of Purveying the Body. Right now you only see 4, but there will be 30, where we'll delve deeper into the historicity, the facts and features of the Lionel Wendt Memorial Fund collection, because it's very important to understand his body of works, because he was catalytic for his time. He brought together the foremost art collective, the 43 group, and he was also very instrumental in using the Western styles to present Sri Lankan, and or maybe at his time it was a Ceylonese, simplicity, a valiant imagination in, everything that is simple. Because if you look at the works that we will be showcasing, is from the coconut huskers to the fishermen to the punters. So it's a very beautiful and sensual at the same time, a presentation of what was Ceylon, because that was a time that was few years before we received independence, and then there was a national conscience. There was, there was energy to also prove who we are, but they also did it in formidable ways that could reach to a larger audience internationally, so that they could also communicate. So that would be Purveying the Body. And the next day we go to the De Souza House, for which we have the art tour that begins at 9 o'clock, where we will be taking the audience through a very beautiful art collection, alongside the significance of that home. Because incidentally, when I was speaking to Professor Sharia, who is also the holder of the space, she did mention that the steel that was used across the windows by Bava was almost a form of experimentation before he built Kandalama, which is iconically known for the design. So then you can see the how it kind of started. And so while we take them through that, at 10 o'clock we have a conversation with Ismeth Raheem himself, where we delve deeper into his architecture as well, where we get into specifically places like the Habrana Lodge, where he was inspired by the Ritigala monastic building, of course. And at 11:15 with Professor Sharia, we delve into the role that private homes like this could play in characterizing Colombo from a heritage perspective, because all these art experiential segments, Mariam, that were also designed to sort of show the potency of Sri Lanka's art, culture and heritage, and the role it can play in characterizing Sri Lanka even from the perspective of tourism. And these formidable formats, like you mentioned at the beginning, where we had in Galle, Bentora last year and Colombo, is to collectively show the variety and the diversity that we have, that we should, bring forth to limelight to a larger audience, and perhaps add a character which is going to be very dynamic for Sri Lanka, and thereby contributing to the economic system here.
Of course, and while we honor the work of great people like Ismeth Raheem and of course Jeffrey Bava, you mentioned something about an emerging artist that I picked up on. What is this whole thing about an emerging artist in your festivals, and how did you come up with that idea, and how has it gone so far?
It is something that was very important for ARTRA right from the outset, because in the last 3 years we've been focusing a lot on the art legacies, and the reason is because sometimes it's good to highlight the ones who have passed on but who have been monumental in sharing their vision and characterizing Sri Lankan modern art. So there was an importance in that historicity to, archive while most of their colleagues are still alive, and get very strong primary data. But having said that, we have to be a part of the present, and the emerging artists and the contemporary artists play a very large role in highlighting what is going on now through their work. And right from the inception in 2012, we have been, featuring these works. But from 2016, we had a column and even different editions of the magazine that focused on emerging artists based on, unique style of presentation, their skill set, and also being a part of the art ecosystem to a point where they also grow in a very responsible way. And in that, we have featured Amesh Vijaysekara at this time, and it's a very fascinating story, because when I met him, he was a student at AOD, and he was very dynamic in his presentation of, stylizing. He brought in the concept of androgyny to the forefront with all grandeur, and he would, test the body and gender. And then through the years, I saw him evolve. He was in London a few years ago, and he was in fact also featured in Vogue. So it gave me a lot of excitement to see this is someone that we identified in 2016, and look at how they've grown. And in this art experiential festival, where we're primarily looking at some of the bygones, it's important to have someone like Amesh also part of it, and especially his work intersecting with that of the Lionel Wendt, whose work we are also looking at from the point of the body, becomes so much more interesting, because it becomes an intergenerational dialogue. So yes, it's something that we have also made sure we're part of all of the art experiential festivals across ARTRA platforms, and we're very excited this time around to have Amesh. And he's also an artist, and he's also a designer, so it makes it so much more exciting, and that takes place on Saturday at 2 o'clock here at Harold Pierce Gallery.
And my final question to you is, when you say modern art, when you say fashion, it's a little different to what comes to our mind when we say architecture, and so how does your audience work for this festival? Is it are you expecting an audience quite similar to what you had with your biannual festivals in the south, or are you expecting a different audience who expect different things from your festival?
I think, like you very correctly pointed out, locations do matter when it comes to the type of audience that comes in. So to answer that question, what we are noticing so far with the ticket sales is that this time we have a very mature art audience that is very much seeped in the art scene, which is also brilliant. We also have some students coming along, especially for the Saturday programs. And we are also in the process of replicating models like this that we are doing with the Art Experiential Festival for tourists. So we're working with very formidable companies to sort of bring together an audience in Colombo that are tourists to also look into culture, because when we had these talks in Gaul and Bentota, it was very interesting. At brief, in 95% were tourists, and then in Gaul also we had a very large tourist audience, and we had the expat audience. So then what we saw, there was a new audience that was not very versed in the art scene coming into it, and they thought it was insightful. And this time we have them as well, but what we are finding is a mature audience. It's also interesting to see the trajectory that ARTRA has taken to also come to that scale, and now it has come to a point where we are having a large audience, and now we want to sort of expand specifically to those audiences, because the language, the style, and even the level at which we present art would vary. And this becomes so much more exciting for me, Mariam, because I truly believe that art can play a role in contributing to the economy of Sri Lanka by celebrating the culture, heritage, art, and that of the modern and contemporary. And this time, I see them all coming together with that audience, and there's a lot of excitement in presenting this overseas in this format, because recently I was invited to London to do some talks on ARTRA, its journey, and Sri Lankan modernism. And when I was speaking of all of that, what we did here, they were very excited. They said, can you please give us dates forward so we could come? And this is the kind of audience that we could, capture and enlarge, and also hopefully, and I know they will contribute to the betterment on other angles as well. So yes, it's a meandering of it all.
Of course, Sri Lanka is anyways a country that focuses and depends a lot on tourism, and while we are a country very rich with the heritage and culture, art and architecture just makes it even better. Yes. Well, that was our conversation with Editor-in-Chief and Director of ARTRA magazine. Don't forget, it is this week on Friday, Saturday and Sunday. You can experience the Art Experiential Festival. Come look at the art, embrace it, appreciate it, because that is what our talented artists and architects need. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you again with another exclusive.